I think it's important just to mention first that Amir and I are good friends, and were good friends before October 7th, and that a lot of the aspirations that each of us has, we share, and yeah, I'm just so grateful to be able to have him as a partner on campus, because he does really get it when it comes to the importance of interfaith work, and has been a friend and teacher for me. Well, we met for the first time at a Hendricks Chapel retreat when I was new as the campus rabbi a few years ago, and so there is a built-in structure at Syracuse for all the chaplains to know each other and to get to know each other. And I knew from our first retreat that Amir was the chaplain I was most interested in getting to know and working with, and at least at that time. And from there, I think we got to know each other's stories and upbringings and values, and I think saw a lot of alignment there. And then we applied to do Jewish-Muslim dialogue before October 7th, and we had a plan for it. And in the wake of October 7th, which was such a painful and difficult event with resonance in both our communities, I think, very deeply, we said, well, this is even more important that we do this dialogue fellowship. And we started small, 10 Muslim and 10 Jewish students, and fortunately had more than 10 applications from both traditions. I think a lot of people who knew us well and who trusted us, and also students who were interested in learning and interested in sharing and interested in practicing listening and empathy and understanding across difference. And we really started with common ground, because there is so much common ground between the experience of Jewish and Muslim students in the US, and built out a curriculum from there.
It's really a blessing to have a friend like Rabbi Bair, and after that first connection during Hendricks Chapel retreat, we met multiple times to get to know one another better, and then we did a few things together. One was, I think, community service. Another one was bringing our communities together for Shabbat, and was it for Iftar? So it was really kind of groundwork for bringing our communities together. And then we went last summer into planning Jewish Muslim Dialogue Fellowship. So we were excited to do that, and who would know that it would become more challenging but also more important to do after October 7th. So we did it in February for 4 weeks. But what was the key, I think, is for us to model that interfaith friendship or relationship. So we were modeling that for our colleagues, but also for our students. So just us walking on campus together, being in spaces together, doing things together. Even
I know a lot of his students. He knows a lot of the Jewish students. Yeah.
So that was something that I think was really impactful for those who are observing what we do in our relationships, so that help us later on do the work that we have been doing. October 7th, of course, was something that we didn't expect, that came almost as a surprise. And some found about it earlier, some later. I know that was Saturday, so for our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community, they probably found out a little later, after sundown on that day. But for most other people, they followed news in the morning, and it was just devastating to learn about loss of life and these horrible acts that happen. So immediately especially as a religious leader, you start thinking, okay, how is this going to affect all members of our community? So especially being on campus like Syracuse University, where we have students from all over the world, we knew that it will have a lasting effect. And immediately I connected with Dean of the chapel, and then later on after Shabbat, I think 3 of us connected to discuss our plan forward. Because we knew we will have to respond, but the question was, what is the best way to respond? And then we came to conclusion that it is time where each community needs their own space, but also we need a shared space. So and to balance this together. So Jewish community did something, we did something for our Muslim community, but then also collectively work on developing something that will bring these communities together. So in that way, we provided much needed space for each community to process what was happening in that safe space, but then also shared an invitation for those who are ready to discuss what's happening and process it with those who probably share different worldviews, or who significantly disagree with how this conflict is perceived.
Like any crisis moment, we, or I and other Hillel staff and students really had to reflect, what are the needs of our students right now? And even if Amir and I both had aspirations for shared, at that point, right after October 7th, it really was the Hamas massacre and needing to mourn the lives of Israelis who were murdered and kidnapped and raped and all of the suffering that ensued. So we determined that bringing Chabad and Hillel together for a peace vigil for Israel, which is what we called it. This was before the incursions into Gaza, was really important. And we had over 600 students who came, and in addition to students speaking and me and the other rabbi speaking, I also talked at that vigil of the importance of being sensitive, not just for other Jewish students, but also for Muslim students on campus who were going to experience some kind of, difficulty in the wake of this, and of course anticipating the violence that ensued in Gaza. So, the importance of also caring for our Muslim brothers and sisters in the wake of it, because of, when there's a terrorist group that does something terrible, often Muslim students and Muslim Americans experience some kind of backlash. And so I spoke about that at the Israel Vigil, and then things got more complicated as the war continued. And I think it did become, I think Amir and I both experienced the challenges of dealing with students who think differently than we do, and who are at different extremes. I think we both identify as more moderate, and a lot of students, were just processing grief and came out as anger and came out in all these ways. And so, yeah, our job is primarily to meet their needs, and then our other job is to educate and to push students beyond the worldviews that they enter college with. And if they don't do that, in my view, their college experience is a failure. So, we take education really seriously, and really this year was about listening and about creating this third space, the one we did together, and other spaces where where the diversity of opinion within the Jewish community and the diversity of opinion within the Muslim community could come out, so that no one can paint with a broad brush in the wake of that experience.